And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. Look, we're almost there. We're 10,000 shy. Then I'm going to be saying to 1,000,000 subscribers. So do me a favor, hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share, because this stupidity, it's got to stop. Now, let me be clear about something. We've spent a lot of time debating the merits of the Comey and the Letitia James indictments. But now that Judge Curie dismissed them over Lindsey Halligan's unlawful appointment, the spotlight, it turns to what happens next. I sat down with lawyer Dave Aronberg to break down whether the charges can be refiled, who's likely to step in, and what this means for accountability in these high-stakes cases. Play the clip.
If I can, let me give you the exact language by Judge Cameron Curry, where she said that she agreed with Comey, who, through his lawyers, moved to dismiss the case on the grounds not anything to do with the facts. Because I've been very clear. I've been on MSNBC, CNN, on this Substack. I've been everywhere. I believe that both Comey and Tish James could be held accountable based upon the facts. All right. I do believe that wholeheartedly. But in this specific case, the attorney for James Comey moved to dismiss the case on the grounds that Halligan's appointment as the attorney general for the Second Circuit there in Virginia was illegal. And here's exactly the comment. Because Ms. Halligan had no lawful authority to present the indictment, I will grant Mr. Comey's motion and dismiss the indictment. All right. Going on one last line here. All actions flowing from Ms. Halligan's defective appointment, including securing and signing Mr. Comey's indictment, were unlawful exercises of executive power and are hereby set aside. All right. Plain and simple. Mind you, that does not mean that they cannot reinstitute this lawsuit, because the dismissal was without prejudice.
Well, let's discuss that. When it comes to Letitia James, yes, if they could find someone who will sign their name and seek a new indictment, they could do it. So the statute of limitations has not expired for Letitia James. Here's the issue. Judge Curry has essentially said that the judges are now going to have to pick the new acting U.S. attorney, the judges. And the judges, if they are allowed to pick it, because Trump is going to appeal this, but if the district court judges are allowed to pick the replacement, there's no way that a legitimate prosecutor who they appoint will want to file these weak cases. And so that case will be dead. But Trump is appealing, and I think ultimately he loses on appeal. But that's where this case is right now. Now,
let me just jump in for a second, because a lot of those that are with us right now are screaming statute of limitations, statute of limitations. You want to touch that subject, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, no, I can do that. But that's the Comey case. Okay, so I start with the easier one, the Letitia James. It could be filed again, but if the new appointee is a legitimate prosecutor, they're not going to. But we'll see what happens next. Okay, I know you and I disagree.
Let's say you and I slightly differ on that aspect. But Go ahead.
We disagree on the merits, the substantive merits on these cases. Okay, now when it comes to Comey, that yes, the judge dismissed both cases without prejudice, meaning technically you could refile. But Comey's case was filed on the eve of the statute of limitations expiration. And so it is much harder to refile. There's something, though, in the law called the savings clause. That's within the law, and it says that if an indictment is dismissed for a non-substantive reason, meaning procedural like this, you can refile within 6 months. But here's the thing. The wording of the Curie opinion seems to express her opinion that, and it's suggested that this case was politically driven, that she even mentions that Lindsey Halligan had no prior experience as a prosecutor and that this was rushed. And so I think that this case should not be brought again, because it would be bad policy if you could get away with a rushed 11th hour prosecution for someone who is void, who is not allowed to be the prosecutor, and then be allowed to say, okay, because of that, we give you another 6 months to find someone else who will do it. I don't think you can engage in that kind of bad faith and extend the statute of limitations under the law. But as I said, it's complicated, and this is debate that will ensue.
Right. I mean, it's complicated because you say that if, in fact, that an indictment against Comey, which would revive the case despite the expiration of the statute of limitations, is vindictive prosecution or it's in bad faith. Let's say, once again, you and I have slightly different opinions, on that. The law is the law. And the problem is, you know, how many times have we seen even folks like here in New York, Eric Schneiderman, or where you had what was his name, our former governor, where
Elliot Spitzer?
Elliot Spitzer, where they're so despised that people are willing to, let's just say, look a little bit to the left here and allow it to continue. James Comey was one of those people. James Comey was an individual who truly wanted to be remembered as the head of the FBI. If I say to you, and I'm not talking about to you, I'm talking to our Substack community here, name 3 FBI, heads of the FBI, everybody runs right out and say, oh, J. Edgar Hoover, right? It's the first thing that they say. And you can't talk about ones that are within the last, say, 6, 8 years, right? That's too easy. I don't want to hear that. But James Comey wanted to be one who was continuously remembered. So he acted in a way which really made him despised by a lot of people, myself, of course, included. When you are the head of the department, one of the things that one would think that you would do if you find that there is no there's no issue, as there was, as I had said, I have never been, he is a dick, right? That I have never been to Prague. I had never been to the Czech Republic. I never met with Russian compromise. I never paid anybody $10 million on behalf of Paul Manafort. Not that I wouldn't pay 10 cents for the guy, let alone 10 million, yada, 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 right? He didn't care because he wanted to be the guy who brings Trump down, right? I mean, that's all that he wanted. So do I believe that, Comey is an innocent bystander in anything? Absolutely not. And, in like that book by Harvey Silverglate, 5 Felonies a Day, that's why I constantly say that Comey and Tish James and Adam Schiff and so on, you realize that everybody commits 5 felonies a day, whether you believe it or not. And here's the crazy shit. If the government wants you, you say, well, how come it doesn't happen to every single person? Because the government's not looking for every single person. But when they set their eyes on you, rest assured, whether it's going to be a tax issue, it's going to be a filing of a document issue, whatever it might be, they will ultimately get you. And they put so much fucking pressure on you. Like in my case, they said, if you don't plead guilty, this is on a Friday at 5:30 p.m. I talk about it through the book, all throughout the book, Revenge. When I first found out about what they wanted on a Friday at 5:30 p.m., you come in 9:00 a.m. on Monday, plead guilty, or we file an 80-page indictment that includes your wife. That, my friends, is not fucking justice. All right? That's not justice at all. That's Bill Barr.
Well, yes, I look. You and I talked about what happened to you. I didn't, and the worst thing is when you decided to write the book and then they threw you back into prison while Manafort goes free under house arrest, and they revoke your privileges because they didn't like that you were exercising your First Amendment rights to write a book. I thought that was terrible. But as far as this case goes, so the next step, the question is whether it will be refiled. I think that from a substantive standpoint and from a procedural standpoint, it's essentially done against Comey. They can try, they can appeal it, and the Supreme Court can overturn it, and then it's game back on. But absent that, on direct appeal, I don't think that they're going to be able to refile it because I think the wording of this opinion from Judge Curry suggests that they, meaning the administration, acted in bad faith. This was a vindictive prosecution, and the administration should not benefit from rushing to the courthouse with an inexperienced first-time prosecutor who's appointed without any qualifications and was appointed improperly and get the benefit of that 6 months later. So that's my take.
Listen, I agree with you. I also believe that a judge would turn around and say, if in fact that Comey is innocent of the charges, then it shouldn't be a problem for him to represent that to a court and to get a dismissal the right way. If Trump is successful in having an alternate appointed under the right process, then I believe that if they choose that person finds it, that there is a legitimate case here to be brought to prosecute, I'm pretty sure that the courts will allow it to go through.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this